Welcome to the Online Success Journey podcast, your opportunity to discover and learn from entrepreneurs like yourself. This is not your typical podcast, but a place where you can get the real story and find out how real people encounter speed bumps and detours, but journey through to find success. Now here's your host for the Online Success Journey podcast, Patience.
Hello everyone and welcome to Online Success Journey. This is episode 40. Are you ready to join the clan? Today we have Adam Hommey. Adam is the founder and the creator of Help My Website, Sell TM, and the Business Creator Institute TM. Helps increase your website conversation and simplify your marketing technology so you can spend less time editing and maintaining and more time. Hello Adam.
Hi, Patience. Thanks for having me on board. Looking forward to this.
Wow, we're excited here. I know the clan is anxious to hear your story, so let's get started with the basics. Can you tell my clan about your background, what you did before you were online?
What I did before I was online, boy, that's a loaded question. Let's see, where do we want to begin? Back in 2003, I completed my MBA, which is a Master's in Business Administration from Duquesne University with a concentration in Human Resource Management. My goal at the time was to be a training and development director for a Fortune 500. In fact, for the previous 2 years, the day job I held down while I was pursuing my MBA was working for a nonprofit in the training and development department as the assistant to the manager of training. So it was pretty exciting stuff, and I thought I was on the path that I was going to be pursuing for the long term. So after I get my MBA, I do my usual, the networking, the interviewing, and all that other happy stuff. I get 2 job offers. I received 2 job offers, companies that actually had not been quote unquote hiring, but had decided to create positions just for me. And in both cases, I turned them down. Even when they gave me everything I wanted, I turned them down. Because something was just telling me that this was really not the path that I needed to follow. Something about this just was not working out for me. Now, right around the same time, I ended up reconnecting with one of my previous mentors who I had encountered back when I was in college, and he came to do a presentation for us on success. So I'd kept in touch with him through phone calls and emails over the years. But I ended up reconnecting with him, and at this point in his life, he owned a small training and development company and needed somebody to assist him with creating his presentations and analyzing data from when he surveyed the teams at large companies. So I started doing that as sort of like a side gig while I still held down my day job. And for about 18 months to 2 years, we had the old chicken and the egg thing, or the ox before the horse cart, and trying to figure out how I was going to become a full-time entrepreneur. Well, if I knew then what I know now, that wouldn't have been 2 years. That would have been 2 weeks, first thing. And second is I got to a point where I had so much business booked through my side gig that I knew that if I left my job, not only once I cashed out all my accrued vacation, I would still have an income for 2 months before I even needed to live off my business. But I had 6 months worth of projects booked out. That was a good time for me to go. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to do this thing where I support training and development companies. And in 3 years, I'm going to have my own training and development company where I'm the one up on stage doing the presentations. Funny thing, I met somebody in the hallway at an event who owned a company that did marketing support for small business owners. I ended up becoming an apprentice, so to say. And she told me at the time that 2 things happened with people who came on as her assistants. Either they'd be so good that within 6 months they leave her because they're billing their own clients at higher rates, or they're so bad she has to find a way to get rid of them. Well, it turned out I was the former, obviously. And for 5 years, I owned a web development firm. Then I closed that down and I started a consulting firm called helpmywebsitesell.com. Now here in 2016, we're now launching the Business Creators Institute, which is an organization that provides high-level mentoring support that helps you win at the game of business and marketing.
Wow, what a journey, but exciting one. Wow. Adam, so help us connect with you. Tell us one thing, a business or a personal thing that we want to know about you.
Well, I've been called the crazy cat man of the internet. I live here in Las Vegas, Nevada, and I have my two little princesses, Stella and Sandra. I refuse to get a corporate office because it means I'll have time away from my cats. And if I were to get an office, every day would be bring your cat to work day. So, funny thing is, just one of those little ironies of life. For years, I lived in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I knew I was going to be leaving that town. So I lived in a place that did not allow pets, and I didn't have a cat, thinking I'm going to move to some other town and then I'll rescue a couple cats once I get there. Well, the irony is right before I leave Pittsburgh to move to Las Vegas, I'm given these two little kittens, and I end up driving across the country with them in a carrier. And to their credit, they were extremely well behaved, although I can't really say much for that right now. And as I do this interview with you patients, I have Sandra sitting on the one arm of my chair, resting her head on my right on my wrist so I can't move my arm, and Stella's pawing at me from the other side. They always like to give me attention when I don't look for it, but then when I do want to play with them or sit with them, what have you, they hide.
Wow. Well, you are looking for them, so that's when they don't need you. So that explains
Exactly.
on Skype your cat. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I understand the human's actual place in the evolutionary cycle. The cat is above the human, and once we recognize this, everything just becomes a lot easier.
Okay. How did you manage to product launch a new product and sold out to 60 and netted 89 new coaching clients in one day?
All right, so you're talking about something we did in October of 2008,
Yeah.
which was one of our very first product launches that we did with one of our clients. Basically, it was just following a formula for launching products, product launch formula, obviously. And what it comes down to are three very important things we need to know about marketing and persuasion. Number one, and this is most important of all, is it does not matter what people say they want. It does not matter what you think that people want. What matters is what they will respond to, is the first thing. The second thing is that just like in interpersonal relations, we have to practice the platinum rule, which is to treat others as they would like to be treated. We need to do the same thing with our audiences, and we need to take that time to find out how it is that they want to receive the information, how it is that they want to be communicated with, how they want to have a relationship with you. And then the third thing is to have what Grandma Hommey, God rest her soul, used to call stick-to-itiveness, which is the ability to persevere, to not cut and run the moment you don't get the exact numbers you look for, and to be willing to stay in the game, so to speak. Now, there's a difference between knowing when to cut your losses and knowing when to double down, but having that understanding is the third thing that I think is very important, to know that, you know, if you don't get your $65,000, your 89 new coaching clients in one afternoon, that doesn't mean that you failed. Maybe it just means you have to do one more thing. There have been many times when managing campaigns when it just intuitively hit me that, you know what, we need to send just one more email. And that's really going to make a difference. And in almost every case, it has. And I've also had intuition that says, you know, this one's a turkey. We kind of need to let this one go quietly. But even when we did that, we would then go back and revisit and look at what is something else that we could offer here. Maybe the message is wrong. Maybe the offer is wrong. Maybe the price point is not something that people are actually going to bite down on. We just don't really know the answer, but we need to find out.
Wow. Okay. So, Adam, you've been in the game for a long time now and you are so successful. Did you have any failures or setbacks while starting your online business?
Well, who hasn't? I mean, I have gone through periods of hell. Now, as Winston Churchill famously said, when you're going through hell, keep going. And in all cases, that's exactly what I did. I've been in situations where I was at a point in my business where I looked around and I absolutely looked at this and I said, you know, I hate this. I don't want this. And I actually fantasized about not having that. And I think we've all been there. And the reason I say this out loud is not because I have any concern that I might look weak or look imperfect. It's because I want to be the voice for everybody else who goes through these periods where sometimes they wonder why they're doing it, or they look at their business and they've come to hate their business and they wonder whatever went wrong. So I want to be the voice for folks to let them know, number one, this is something that most entrepreneurs go through. And number two, there is hope, and there is a way to move past that. You may need to look at what it is you're doing. What customers are you serving? How are you serving them? Maybe there's something about that that's either out of integrity for you or that just is not at the intersection of your brilliance and passion. I had a situation once, and I love telling people about this, so this is one of the reasons I'm so glad you invited me to be on your show here today, Patience. Okay, so I think everybody listening is familiar with the concept of the client from hell. We've all had a client from hell. And I think most of us have actually had two clients from hell, because what happens is you go through one, and then you learn the hard way, and you look back at it retrospectively, and you realize all the indicators and all the signs that this was going to be a bad fit client. And you know that the second time around, you're not going to let somebody who shows these indicators and has these characteristics become a client again. But then what happens is a year or two later, you then get this other client who looks so good on paper, and all the initial conversations were great. And then you get them on board, and things are going great at first. And then you discover that you book Satan to be your next client. It happens to all of us. So again, I'm the voice of the person who needs to say this, who needs to own this, and who needs to recognize that this is just part of the entrepreneurial journey. So imagine being in a situation like I was in 2007, where I had 3 clients from hell all at the same time. Now, you and I only have X amount of time together here today, Patience. So I'm not going to get into what every single one of those clients was like. But let's just say that for those of our listeners who cringed when I said the phrase client from hell and saw the face of their client from hell in front of them as I used that phrase, imagine having 3 of them. It was to the point where I set up a separate email account just to communicate with my team members so that I could at least have an hour's peace in the morning before I had to start dealing with this nightmare that were these 3 clients. And these 3 in particular just love to do things like make the biggest deal out of the smallest nothings. And one in particular was particularly adept at sending emails very late at night, just so that I would wake up to them in the morning. And it wasn't pleasant emails either. It was, I mean, you'd think that it was impossible for anything to go right in these cases. So I got to a point where I was so hamstrung and I was pulled in so many different directions that I had eaten toothpaste for breakfast that morning because I hadn't had a chance to go to the grocery store. So here we are, we're about 11 o'clock in the morning, and we have had yet another issue with another client from hell situation, and I have to print something out because I have to mail something to my accountant for my taxes or something like that. So I send the document to the printer, and halfway through printing that piece of paper, my printer stops and tells me it's out of ink. Oh. And I'm thinking, you ran out of ink in the middle of a print job? You didn't warn me you were low on ink? You cost me a piece of paper when I don't have time to go out and buy another ream of paper? Let me put it this way. 2 years later, when I was moving out of that apartment to move into a higher scale apartment, we were still finding pieces of that printer laying around.
Oh. Oh, no. But Adam, why couldn't you just say that, let's cut our losses and I'm
getting there.
Yes, we can go and you move on, and we are not the perfect team.
This was, When I looked around at this, I all I could say to myself is, wow, this is really awful. But then another thing occurred to me is this may be my worst day as an entrepreneur, but this is still better than my best day working in a corporation for somebody else for one very key reason. Because here, as an entrepreneur, I can look at this awful situation and I can say, enough. We're changing things now and make those things happen. In a corporate scenario, not only do you have to take that level of abuse at certain times, but then you have to thank the person for it and write emails about how right they are. Mm-hmm. So without belaboring this whole thing, let's just say that I did fix my situation very quickly and leave it at that.
Okay. All right. But now you moved on. We are now moved on from that situation. What do you think is the reason for your online success journey?
The reason for my online success journey is Boy, I think there's a lot of reasons, but one that jumps out at me is my willingness to have flexibility to a degree that others may look at it as being almost flaky and wishy-washy in certain cases, because I stay very in tune to where the intersection of my brilliance and my passion is. In other words, a place where I can deliver the most value to the community. And I'm also aware that that can be a shifting target. So being aware of new opportunities, having the willingness to constantly explore and revisit and discover new things and find new methods for serving the community and for delivering success, I think is one of my greatest success attributes.
Wow. What is your focus or specialty online?
You're asking who our customer avatar is, basically.
Yes.
So, all right. The best way to describe it and who we serve at the Business Creators Institute is we work with companies that already have some traction. We're looking for small businesses between 3 to 10 employees or team members, and we're looking for companies that have already done some of the marketing, that have already gotten some of the traction, but have reached a point where they recognize that it's time for them to play a much bigger game and do things on a much grander scale. So they've already gone through the process of doing some list building. They've already had a couple of the failures where they fell down and skinned their knees. So now what they're looking to do is do something more effectively and do something more powerfully. So what we do at the Business Creators Institute is we come in as, shall we say, another team member, so to speak. And like the virtual assistants and the web people and such and the marketing people will work with me, and we go through an 89-point checklist, and we look for all these different opportunities to reduce revenue leaks and increase revenues and profits on the incoming end. And just through this forensic work of going through and finding all these new opportunities that sometimes from within your business you don't even see because you have the tunnel vision of needing to serve immediate obligations, is we work with those companies to help them find opportunities that even if they're aware of, they can't see just because it's right in front of their face. Did you know that the average human being utilizes less than 10% of their brain?
Ooh, I wonder what about the rest?
Well, it's that part has not been decisively figured out, but a number of studies have shown that the average human being uses less than 10% of their brain. Now, picture yourself being in a small business and you have a team of 3 or 4 people and you have client obligations, and let's say that things are actually going really well. Now, in that situation, what that often means is you're extremely busy with projects, and sometimes it takes everything you've got just to deliver on your deadlines on something resembling a timely fashion. So, as far as developing your team members so that they become profit centers for your business, forget about it. In many cases, your team will go through hell and high water to do something for you, and now even send you a detailed email explaining the exact steps of what they did and the results you got. And it might be all day until you even have the bandwidth to reply and say thanks. Now, that's not going to make your team member feel very good because what? I busted my butt and all I get is this simple thanks 12 hours later. And it makes you feel detached because you're not even in the thick of what's going on in your business because your brain is so stretched that 10% or less that you're using anyway. And almost all of that is being allocated to just getting by and delivering things sort of on the timetable you promise. So the promise of the Business Creators Institute is we provide another brain. So you take 10% of you, 10% of me, now you have 20%.
Wow, so we get escalate. There is where you mentioned that you shouldn't drive traffic to your website. But if we don't do that, how do we survive?
Oh, I love this one. I'll get up on stages, I'll be at mastermind events and I'll be speaking, and I will spring this on the audience. And even when they see it coming because they've heard of me or they've been through one of my presentations before, I will just interject, and usually at the most random place, just for the maximum shock value. And I will say, folks, there's something that a lot of people have in their business. And although everybody's telling you you need to have this in your business, the fact is it's a cancer. It's eating at your business from within. In fact, if you did not have this in your business at all, you would probably be much more successful. You don't want to know what that is? And they'll say, yeah, and you'll see the heads nodding. I'll say, the last thing that you need or want in your business is traffic to your website. And then I pause. And I see jaws dropping to the floor. people shaking their heads like I just told them that the earth was flat.
Mm-hmm.
I just let that sink in for a minute because everybody's talking about we need to get more traffic. We need to buy more ads to get more traffic. We need to push button traffic.
Yes, because they said that is like a vein. If we lose that, it's like going in the heart. We might die.
That's what they say, and you see such an emphasis on this traffic to your website to the exclusion of activities that could be even more profitable for your business, such as upselling and renewing customer relationships you already have. The easiest customer to convert is the customer you already have. The second easiest customer to convert is the one you previously had who you're welcoming back. New customers are down the transom a good deal. So we're worried about is traffic to our website. I don't want traffic to my website. In fact, the day I get traffic to my website, you can just slather me with peanut butter and call me Jiffy. Seriously, because I do not want traffic to my website. What I want are targeted visitors to my web pages. Let me break that down for you.
Yes.
Targeted visitors, which means I want people who are pre-qualified, which means we're speaking to the right people and we're sharing the right message to attracting them and getting them at the level that they respond to. Prepped, which means when they read that social media status or that email or that ad, they know what they're going to get when they click that link. And pumped, meaning they're so excited to receive it that you better hope that you've optimized your website so that it loads very quickly, because if it takes 5 seconds for your web page to load, then you may actually lose some of that enthusiasm because they're going to be so on the edge of their seat to take advantage of your offer, whether it's to buy your thing or sign up for your thing or what have you. So we're looking for targeted visitors who are pre-qualified, prepped, and pumped to your web page. People throw out this thing called a website. What's a website? Is it a sales letter? Is it a blog? Is it a resources page? Is it an about page, a privacy page, a contact page, a home page, a landing page, a webinar page? What is it?
Now you are
A
confusing
website,
us. Yes.
exactly. A website can be any one of those things. And a website can contain all of those things. But each one of those things is a web page. So rather than traffic to my website, which is like taking a bowl of pasta and throwing it at the wall and see what sticks, when I get targeted visitors to my web pages who are pre-qualified, prepped, and pumped, that's where we experience real conversion improvements.
Wow. Okay. So
What
where?
I've just done, if you allow me, what I've just done, because I don't want to lose this point because this is so important for your listeners, is in the market space, you may find that it's very crowded. You have a lot of competitors who are all saying substantially the same thing. And a lot of companies like mine, whether they compete directly or they're in parallel type services, are all about this traffic to your website. So one of the ways that we make the Business Creators Institute stand out is we say, no, forget about traffic to your website. The last thing you want is traffic to your website, because that's different from what everybody else is saying. We're zigging while everybody else is zagging. Another example is in marketing. What is another phrase we hear in marketing all the time? You need to build know, like, and trust. Have you heard that one before?
Yes,
Well, you're not going to hear me talking about know, like, and trust.
Mhm.
I will tell you all day long about the website conversion conversation, which is the process by which we help people get to know us so they can find their own reasons to like us enough to make the decision to trust us enough to consider throwing money our way. So I don't lead with know, like, and trust. I lead with something called the website conversion conversation. See, what we're doing here is we're zigging where everybody else is zagging, and we're looking where everybody else is and the same thing that everybody else is saying, and we're just moving it over a few degrees so that we stand out. And that is, if there's one thing that people listening today can take away and gain immediate benefit from, is look at what you're saying that everybody else is saying, that you're struggling to stand out from the herd, and find a way to just put different language around it. And that's a very easy way you can start standing out.
So where do we start, Adam? Just give us one tip, really, so we can start working on that.
Well, that was one of my tips right there,
Oh.
which is, again, look at what you're saying, the language you're using, which seems to be the language that everybody else is using, and you're struggling to stand out from the herd, and just put a different phrase on it or come at it from a different angle. And that's one way of standing out.
Okay, well, no more driving traffic. I think we need to really rethink again and really invent ourselves. Wow.
Well, you understand what I'm saying. You understand what I'm really saying here. It's not a matter of we don't want people visiting our web pages. Au contraire, we want lots of people visiting our web pages. What I'm telling folks is to look at it through a different lens and look at it from a different point of strategy.
Right. Okay, where do we find this offer of your program so we can join you and learn more tips?
Well, the best way to get started, and this is something that I'll offer your audience that will not be available for very long, so I do encourage people to take up on this as quickly as possible, is when you visit businesscreatorsinstitute.com, we have, for those who are just looking to get started today, is we have what's known as a freemium offer, which means you can join the entry level of the Business Creators Institute 100% free. And as soon as you log in, you'll find a collection of recorded interviews and trainings that'll help you get started right away winning at the game of business and marketing. And when you're ready to take it to another level, of course, you can make time with us and we'll go through the checklist and we'll find the best way that we can serve you. But for everybody today, no risk, no obligation, no fee. You can join the entry level of the Business Creators Institute, our freemium membership site, and get in there right now and start downloading our recorded trainings and use those to start winning at the game of business and marketing right away.
All right, Clan. Adam is going to hang out and share more information about his journey with us. If you can rate where Adam started his travels so far, if you just want to learn more about Adam, you can listen to the even extended version of his journey at onlinesuccessjourney.com. If you are at online journey, by clicking part 2 of Adam's journey, you can even get more tips to help you build your own website. That's a wrap, Clan. Remember, success is a journey. Patience and Adam, join us in part 2 at onlinesuccessjourney.com.